Hello and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions, where today we're already moving on. We've got the Sevilla preview. There will be a little bit later in the video about the Chelsea game that's just gone, obviously, but this is the beauty, in my opinion, of being in the Champions League and playing on a Tuesday, is that after a negative and fairly frustrating result at the weekend, it's in the rearview mirror now. We're moving on. We've got a big Champions League game. I mean, barely 24 hours away. The Premier League weekend hasn't even finished. Spurs play against Fulham tonight. Now, I'm not expecting Fulham to do us any favours after the way they capitulated against Chelsea. But it's exciting to move on. And Sevilla is a big game away from home. Desperately need to pick up a win after losing against Lens. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're under pressure in this group, and a win will certainly help us avoid that, with 2 of the final 3 games being at home. So we'll get into the game. By the way, if you're new here, please do subscribe. We're trying to get to 6,000 subscribers. Massively appreciate the support. Smash a like on the video if you enjoy it as well. That helps it to reach further afield. But look, Sevilla, it's a challenge. It is a challenge. They've not had a brilliant start to the season, but Sevilla in Europe are a bit of a different breed. Obviously, they won the Europa League against all, I wouldn't say all odds, but they were certainly not the favourites to win the Europa League last season. They won it. It put them in pot 1 for the Champions League, and now they are here against us. And it's going to be a challenge. It is going to be a challenge. They're on 2 points. We're on 3. They've drawn both of their games so far. And this is the thing with Sevilla. Especially in Europe, especially in big games, they're a tough team to beat. They are a tough team to beat at home as well. Now, in La Liga, they're on 9 points after 9 games. You know, it's not a brilliant start for them. They're 13th in the league, only 3 points above relegation. But the atmosphere in what will be one of their biggest games of the season, you know, a Champions League night at home against Arsenal, it's big for them. Same way that we saw against Lens a couple of weeks ago, and where maybe I included underestimated how good Lens would be and how big that atmosphere would be. It's a challenge for our players going into it. So this is Sevilla's recent form, taken from SofaScore, as always. If you want to download SofaScore, the link is in the description. But you can see there that actually they had a really bad start to the season. They've picked up. In their last 8 games, they've only lost 1 game, and that was to Barcelona. Away at Barcelona, they lost 1-0 to a Sergio Ramos own goal quite late on in the game. So even that, you could argue they were unfortunate to come away without a point. They drew against Real Madrid at the weekend. Again, big games, they get up for them. It's tricky. And so I am not expecting by any means for this to be an easy game. And as a result, I think we have to go full strength. Absolutely have to go full strength. And what would that be? Well, here's the big question. Ramsdale was back in training today. Obviously, his wife or partner, don't know if they're married, Georgina, gave birth to a boy at the weekend. So he wasn't in the squad for the Chelsea game, where obviously Raya, you know, did not have a good game. In all honesty, I thought he should have done far better for the Madrid goal, and nearly gave away an absolute clanger to Cole Palmer. And, sorry, I should edit that out, but it's just not my style. You could argue that, and I don't think he ever was going to do it, but when Arteta was claiming that he would like to substitute goalkeepers in games, you could argue if Ramsdale had been on the bench, you'd have considered subbing him on in that game. It was that sort of performance. And for me, Ramsdale should come back into the team. He trained today. He's good to go. I feel like he's always deserved at least 1 Champions League appearance anyway for helping get us there. And I'm simply not convinced that David Raya has done enough to hold on to that shirt when you consider how easily it was taken away from Aaron Ramsdale after what he'd done for us. Now, I understand David Raya does more of what Arteta wants in terms of his positioning. He's more brave, if that's the word. Ramsdale explained before that he's had to compromise with Arteta on where he positions himself. I'm not convinced that that positioning has been, overly effective for David Raya so far. You know, 2 mistakes directly leading to goals already, including Lens in the last Champions League game. Could have had 2 more. Alvarez against Man City, Palmer against Chelsea. And I'm not convinced at all that Ramsdale would be worse in those situations. And as a result, I genuinely think that Ramsdale should be brought back into the side and given his chance to put his name on the shirt again on that number 1 spot. So I would have Aaron Ramsdale. That would be the first big call that I would make for this game. I would then bring back Thomas Partey. Now, I don't understand why Thomas Partey wasn't involved against Chelsea. The game was crying out for Thomas Partey, in my opinion. Yes, I understand that he was away with Ghana in the United States pretty much until Thursday, but so were quite a few other players, not with Ghana, but with Brazil. I think Tomiyasu was away. I don't understand why Thomas Partey wasn't able to come on in that game. And I hope it's not because he got a knock on international duty, although he was in the warm-up and he was on the bench for the Chelsea game. But for me, he absolutely comes back into the side. We are a far better team with Thomas Partey than without him. He's a far better number 6 than Jorginho, in my opinion. And I feel like it frees up Ødegaard and Declan Rice both a bit more if you've got Thomas Partey at CDM. So he would absolutely start at CDM. And this would be the overall team that I would go for. So Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zenchenko. Now, a fair few people are dropping Zenchenko. A fair few people are dropping Zenchenko. They're bringing in Tomiyasu. And I do think Tomiyasu was solid against Chelsea. And I thought Zenchenko was struggling. But I think this game against Sevilla, I think Sevilla are likely to sit back. They're likely to absorb a lot of pressure. And I think Zenchenko in that midfield is what you need. I think that creativity that Zenchenko offers, I think that is what you need for this game. So I understand the calls for Tomiyasu to come in. I understand the frailty that Zenchenko has defensively or can have defensively. But this isn't the game. This isn't the game, in my opinion, where you would get rid of Zenchenko and bring in Tomiyasu. The game for me that you would do that is in roughly 10 days' time, 11, 12 days' time, against Newcastle away in the Premier League. That's the game where you bring in Tomiyasu, in my opinion. So Zinchenko stays in. You've then got that midfield of Partey, Rice and Ødegaard, and that front three of Saka, Jesus and Martinelli. And, I massively hope that it works better than it did against Chelsea. And I think it will. I think there will be far more opportunities than there were against Chelsea. And I think that squad, that team, should be more than capable of winning. But it is our strongest 11. And I think we need to go into it with our strongest 11. Absolutely. Because, like I said, not taking 3 points here puts us under massive pressure. Especially depending on what happens between Lens and PSV. It puts us under massive pressure. That team is capable of winning the game. They have to go there and do it. And then you've got Sheffield at the weekend, where, in my opinion, you should be able to give certain players a rest if they need it. If Declan Rice needs a rest because he has played a lot of football, including during the international break, give Declan Rice a rest. Same with Martin Ødegaard. Players that maybe looked a bit tired against Chelsea, give them a rest against Sheffield United at home, in my opinion, not against Sevilla away in the Champions League. The Champions League for me is so important this season. Yes, absolutely want to win it, but it's an absolute must that we go a long way in it, and we cannot not take it seriously. So that's it, kind of, for the Sevilla preview. Do I think Sevilla can be a threat? They can. En-Nesyri up top can be a threat if they can get into wide positions, whip some balls into the box from set pieces. They'll be dangerous. But in all honesty, it shouldn't be too much for this Arsenal team to handle. Moving on, wanted to talk about the backlash from the game against Chelsea just a little bit, because I immediately uploaded that video in the aftermath of the game where I didn't cover everything. And one of the big talking points now is this Robert Sanchez, Gabriel Jesus foul that should have been a penalty. And we've heard Dermot Gallagher come out. We've heard Stephen Warnock, Sue Smith on Match of the Day, they were talking about it. Absolutely a penalty, completely clatters into Gabriel Jesus. No idea why this wasn't given. And now, I want to stress, if this penalty gets given, how can you look at that, by the way, and not think that's a penalty? But if this penalty gets given, I'm not saying Arsenal go and win the game. And regardless of the penalty decision, Arsenal didn't deserve to win the game. But the point is, it was a stonewall penalty, and I don't understand how it wasn't given. And there's a way bigger problem here that we all knew it was a penalty. I certainly knew it was a penalty. I did get a weird bit of backlash from Arsenal fans who were accusing me of, like being biased and clutching at straws and stuff. I think they've all now simmered down now that everyone's come out and agreed. But based on the fact that we all knew that that was basically the same as the Onana foul against Wolves at the start of the season, which Howard Webb came out and apologised for, I don't understand how this wasn't even sent to, the referee wasn't even sent to the monitor to look at it. That's the one thing I don't understand, is that how is VAR not looking at that and going, oh, that's really similar to the Onana one. We messed up on that one by not sending the referee to the monitor. Howard Webb had to come out and apologise. Let's not make that mistake again. I think it's an absolute shambles. And like I said, maybe it doesn't change the game, but maybe it does change the game. And for it not to have been given, it's back-to-back games against Chelsea, no penalty. Against City, Kovacic not getting sent off. And look, I'm not saying there's an agenda, but it does feel like the rub of the green is not going with us at the moment, which is frustrating. And then finally, I just have that in there. It is a fully fit Arsenal squad going into the game tomorrow, bar Jury and Timber. So I don't know what happened to Fabio Vieira. He wasn't in the squad against Chelsea. But that is one option. I know I set the midfield out as Partey, Rice, Ødegaard. There is an option where you bring in Fabio Vieira, in my opinion, because I think we're going to have a lot of the ball. I think Sevilla are going to sit off us a lot. There's an option where you have either Partey or Rice at 6 and you bring in Fabio Vieira. I'd also, I think Kai Havertz has had 2 great cameos in the last 2 games, so I wouldn't be against seeing him, but I think he looks better when he's actually not in that left central midfield role. I think he's looked better at 9. I think he's looked better as almost a right forward. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let me know in the comments your predictions, the team you'd go for, score predictions. I'll do the prediction now because there won't be another video before the game. My prediction, 2-0 to Arsenal. 2-0 to Arsenal. That's what I'm going for, which would be a massive result for us. Absolutely massive result. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please do subscribe. Please do like the video. We'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be back for another Champions League win. Have a good evening, and goodbye.